I'm flying in a chopper over South Florida. I'm getting a bird's eye view of its greatest natural resource and its resource most in peril: water. Growing up here on Miami Beach, water was a part of life. I'd go to the beach a lot, sail a lot, and heck, I lived on this chain of islands in the middle of Biscayne Bay. If you take a wider look at South Florida, you can see that 4 water systems are all interconnected. Basically, a drop of water from Disney World, and I'm not kidding, flows southward through a series of rivers into Lake Okeechobee. That fresh water used to then continue perfectly south into the Everglades. This huge 100-mile long by 50-mile wide national park would send along the water into Biscayne Bay and Florida Bay, eventually mixing with the salt water of the Atlantic Ocean. It looks nice on TV, and for centuries it was a tidy, balanced ecosystem. But today, that ecosystem is all out of whack, and the water, the very fabric of South Florida, is in peril.
Can you tell us what we're looking at?
We're looking at Lake Okeechobee, the heart of South Florida. This is the northeast end.
This is Dan Coltrane. Dan, how long have you been working in the Everglades for?
Almost 17 years.
You are the Everglades.
Yeah, I am the wildlife in the Everglades.
My name is Megan Stokes. I'm the South Florida Citizen Outreach Director for Environment Florida. So I basically have a crew of people that go out every day, talk to people, educate them about the environment here in Florida, and raise funds to save it.
This is Tori White. She's a program manager with the Army Corps of Engineers. Tori, we're on Lake Okeechobee. In general, what's the state of the lake? In bad condition, okay condition, great condition?
Well, the lake is actually in bad condition right now. We've gone through a series of extreme high water events and extreme low water events.
We'll start at the lake and then move south, just like the water does. Water levels here are at historic lows. The day I visited the lake, it stood at 10.2 feet. The average, 15 feet. The reason, a historic drought.
5 feet below average, that's not good.
That's not good. To sustain a healthy lake from an ecological standpoint of view for the wildlife and the plants, you would want to operate the lake between about 12.5 and 15.5. Some high events are okay and some low events are okay, but it's the extreme highs for long periods of time and the extreme lows for low periods of time that really cause damage to the lake.
Here's the thing. While yes, it's the worst drought since 1946, it's an extreme event. Meaning, in the last 10 years, there have been 3 record high water levels on the lake of 18 feet or higher. The Army Corps of Engineers says that's highly unusual, that on record such extreme levels would only occur during a once in 30-year storm event. This means that certain plants are dying. During the drought, fish are dying, causing the gators to look for food elsewhere.
Oh, that's a gator. Look at that. Can we get a close-up? You see the 2
Yes.
gators sitting there?
Now, moving south to the Everglades.
All right, we about ready to go airboating? This is my backyard. All right, well, the water that you're seeing out here, this is actually flowing southward all the way from the big lake in the middle of Florida, Lake Okeechobee. Areas like this, average water depth, 2 inches to a little more than about 2 feet. The water goes through the mud here about 4 to 6 feet deep, and then you got porous rock, coral, limestone. And we take our water from the bottom. If we take too much water without water on the top, salt water is going to invade, which will destroy our whole ecosystem.
How does lower water levels here in Lake Okeechobee then affect the Everglades?
Well, as
We
the
actually like that sound on TV. It sounds like it's
as the
natural
water
for the
levels
environment.
in Lake Okeechobee drop, water is not sent to the Everglades agricultural area.
It's not just because of the drought that water isn't getting to the Everglades. A series of man-made canals and development projects over the last 30 years have disrupted the ever so important natural flow.
Well, technically the water is supposed to come straight down Lake Okeechobee and just flow out over the entire peninsula. Right now, from Lake Okeechobee, now there's water going eastward that wasn't going that way before. Now there's water going kind of southwest. So the whole water channels have been changed. So the southern half of the Everglades is basically dying right now.
That's a loaded statement.
Yeah.
The southern half of the Everglades.
The southern part below Tamiami Trail, the natural water flow is non-existent. It's stagnant. You can look at maps of the water flow and you'll see it's all coming down, stops at Tamiami Trail. Water is all stagnant below that. And basically that's what makes the Everglades. It's the river of grass, just as Marjorie Stoneman Douglas says. And if the river's not moving, it's not a river anymore.
You can take a look here. The suburbs have crept 12 miles westward in the last 20 years. Miami-Dade used to stop about here.
It's a battle that we fight year after year. Developers are always trying to move further west. And so yeah, it definitely does hinder Mother Nature's job. But Environment Florida and other nonprofits here in South Florida are doing a really good job of pushing back and making sure we're holding the line and not developing further than we need to.
We want to build up political pressure, so when representatives and senators know that we're out here talking to people, they get kind of scared, want to do the right thing.
Still, while their lobbying stopped 12 of 13 newly proposed Western development projects,
A lot of people are giving something around $15 to help the cause.
roads were built long ago, like this, the Tamiami Trail, stopping that natural southern flow.
8 miles from here, we have development.
So to hydrate all those people moving west, local government turned to the Everglades to provide even more drinking water. And sometimes even floods the Everglades purposefully because it's not getting enough water from the lake.
The conservation is not of the wildlife. The conservation is of the water. All right, we had 1,000 people move to South Florida each week. All right, this is South Florida's drinking water.
Right here.
Yeah, you have like coffee, tea, water, ice around Miami. Just remember that I played in it.
The ecosystem is thrown off. Without the right amount of fresh water, again, like the lake, fauna die. The 14 endangered species living here become more threatened.
I think she likes you.
And of course, the gators must alter their way of life.
Alligators have gotten a lot bigger than they were 20, 25 years ago. Back then, your average big alligator was 8, 9 feet. Now your average big ones you see are 13 to 15 feet.
So I'm confused. How much of these problems are man-made and how much is Mother Nature?
Again, I'm an environmental newbie. I'm not
Congrats.
I
Welcome.
I haven't exactly covered the environment. I'm not an
Yeah.
expert on the issue. So does it have anything to do with global warming? The lower water levels and just,
Whether or not that's the cause of global warming, I can't say, but we are seeing a trend of these more extremes.
do you believe in global warming?
Oh yeah.
Global warming or not, what's the government doing to combat these issues? Well, the Comprehensive Federal Water Resources Development Act, or WRDA, was passed way back in 1986. An aid package for the Army Corps of Engineers and local communities to, quote, facilitate commercial navigation, reduce the risk of damage from floods and storms, and restore aquatic ecosystems. The House and Senate are to amend and reauthorize the bill every 2 years. However, the proposed $23 billion package that was up for a vote in 2000 wasn't passed until finally this past September, when the House and Senate finally agreed and billions were to go to the Everglades and the lake. Yet, on November 2nd, the president vetoed the bill, 7 years in the making, calling it fiscally irresponsible to greenlight over 900 projects, a system of pork barrel spending.
Congress hasn't passed it for years. Basically, they have a lot to do. Sometimes they miss clean water as one of the priorities of our country.
So we've talked about Lake Okeechobee and the Everglades, but these are inland water systems. Let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room, the Atlantic Ocean. When I grew up here on Miami Beach, the water crept into about here. Now take a look where the beach is at. This is Erosion 101. And this consortium of 5 condos are spending millions of dollars to ship in sand from the Bahamas and sand from Central Florida, literally to fortify their beach.
Yep, the beach. Soon after the president vetoed that bill, which included various beach renourishment projects, Tropical Storm Noel was churning in the Atlantic on the day I was up in the chopper, which in turn caused some of the greatest beach erosion in a single day Miami Beach had ever seen. The National Hurricane Center calling it a very serious problem of historic proportions. While it looked pretty from up here, it will immediately cost more millions to replenish the shoreline, and who knows what the future holds. One thing is clear, the water across South Florida is in peril.